Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live webinar called Crypto's Laundering Problem. Can anyone keep up? I'm your host, Catherine Ross-Muchka, and today I am joined by top minds in the crypto industry with years and years of experience on the subject that we're going to be discussing today. And I'd like to introduce all of them for you guys. The first speaker, not in order of importance, but just as it is, Lex Fisun, co-founder and CEO of Global Ledger, Max Krupyshev, CEO and co-founder of CoinsPaid, Georgy Sokolov, co-founder and CCO of Wirex, and Andriy Velykyy, CEO and co-founder of Allbridge.io. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the panel. Thank you so much for finding time to talk to us today. I'm excited about the panel because I think this is one of the most pressing topics in the industry, and I think it's finally time for us to sit down and tackle everything the industry has been through. So again, hi everyone. If you'd like to say a couple of words, please do. Or just hi, will do. Hi. Hi, Lex. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Sorry, Katrina. Pleasure being here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, we're excited and really appreciate your time.
And
So,
thank you so much for inviting. Hi.
yeah, of course. Hi, thank you. So the thing is that this year has been pretty devastating, right? So over the first 6 months of 2025, we had, as the crypto industry, right, in the history of crypto hacks, we saw over $3 billion stolen across 119 incidents. It is almost, so it's like 1.5 times higher than the total amount of hacks back in 2024. This is insane. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is insane. This should not be happening. And I'm going to just dive into our conversation and questions. And I'd like to start with, why do you think this is happening, right? Because this is the unprecedented amount of hacks. And my question, and the first one, the one that we will start with, is, do you think that this is happening because we're entering the so-called major adoption that everybody has been dying for and building for, or maybe hackers are becoming more tech savvy and on-chain savvy? So again, this is a conversation, whoever would like to start, just go ahead and do it. So why this is happening? I think Andrew wants to.
Yeah, I do believe that there is a very logical reason for that. So the larger the market as is, and we are at all-time high, the more money are there to steal. And if we think about that, not in the specific numbers, but rather in percentage, I don't think the situation right now is way worse than, let's say, it was during the last cycle or the cycle before last cycle. It is just the pie that is being attacked is growing and growing and growing. So we end up with larger numbers. Other than that, over the years, I see that there are more and more people who understand the technical potential of blockchain as is, start researching, start looking. It's getting adoption in a way that people know about that, and they know that the money is here. So talented minds, engineering minds, mathematical minds, and those who lack moral principles, they are looking at it like, hey, here I can make an easy money. Like that.
So technically, I'm trying to translate this into more simple words. The better you know how the blockchain works and its vulnerabilities, the more you're likely to steal. I mean, I do not know.
I'm saying that during the last cycles, there were less people who had the knowledge of how to steal. Plus, another problem is that each and every time we see a bull run, a lot of people come to crypto to build projects without any knowledge because they hear, bull run, now I will make money. And because they don't have any knowledge, and there are people from last cycles who have the knowledge, obviously, there is this saying, when a person with money meets a person with experience, the person who had money walks with experience, and the person with experience walks with money.
That's a very complex yet very easy cycle. Thank you, Andrew. Lex, you look deep in thought. Would you agree with what Andriy said? Is you're sharing the same opinion?
Yeah, I think I would largely agree. And I would add that it's not only a crypto thing. So by the number of incidents, let's say in the banking industry, it is also growing. So by the, but there is a there's difference between the banking and crypto. So in the bank, it is not that easy to understand how much money the bank has, where they are, and it's not like in a crypto you have a hot wallet or a cold wallet that everyone knows, and that's the stash, that's the a pile of coins that you would like to take, and probably everything you need is one private key, or as we saw, one North Korean hacker employed into a company, to get the whole stash or like a large chunk of that stash. In the bank, it's not that. So the number of incidents is growing there as well. And the reasons for that are different from adoption, really. It's more about state sponsorship hackers. It's more about how this market of cyber threats evolving as well, because, people finding vulnerabilities, then they sell vulnerabilities to those who do like MVPs from them, and then it's sold to like state sponsored hackers, and they do like ransomware, for example, from that. And the banks also get hacked, but in their case, it's more of a ransomware attack and not just stash steal.
Okay.
And then the ransom isn't crypto, which is funny. Like, so when people attack banks, they normally like encrypt everything, but they demand ransom in crypto, not in fiat as well.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure like if it's a good sign for crypto or not. I mean, this might be the sign of crypto adoption though. Georgy,
Additionally,
would you agree with those two statements before? Do you think that this is happening because of, the industry is getting bigger, or because hackers have more experience, or maybe just because, this is the cycle and everybody's hungry and greedy?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. I think both Andrew and Lex summarized it pretty well. The pie is getting bigger. There are more people interested in getting a piece of that pie. So, and the point about less professional people entering the industry is also, I think, very valid. I mean, this usually doesn't happen in bear markets, right? In bear markets, it's either the existing survivors continuing to build, but rarely anyone new joining the space. And if it's someone new, then it's usually very well prepared people with a solid plan, rather than just someone hoping to ride the wave and not necessarily having the right knowledge or experience for it.
So it's also a question about ethics as well, I guess, right? If you're here to build, you're going to continue building, and if you're just like a very short time speculator to get all the money, I guess it is a deeper question about the state of things and the ethical questions. Before I jump to the second question, that I will definitely start with Max, because I think he has a lot to say on this subject. I'd like to remind to everybody who's listening, and watching, first of all, thank you so much for your time. Second of all, there is a Q&A section where you can leave your questions, and we'll definitely get to them a little bit later. So feel free, be ethical, though, just be cordial, hopefully, and we'll get to that, because we'd like to hear what your thoughts are and what kind of questions you might have to the amazing panel of speakers that we have today. So the second question, I'm pointing right to Max right away. I'll start with you, Max, but you're not the only one to answer that. But I think CoinsPaid has its share of experience, and I covered it as well in terms of hacks and related incidents and all the reports that you guys had. And with your experience in crypto processing, right? So the research shows, and we're getting more to the up to the point questions on how to deal with hacks and how to protect, if it's even possible, yourself, your assets, your team, and your product. So the research shows that compliance team typically have a 10-15 minute window to act if funds from a hacker controlled address have already reached their platform. What's the most critical thing that has to happen in the first 10 minutes after a hack? So what are the definitely top 2, 5, or 10 things to do? And is it even possible? So what are the first things that a team has to do in the case of an attack happening?
You can say, so basically what we have
here in the industry, right? We have this few friendly groups, right, and few friendly companies. They are organized by different researchers, by different, helpers to recover the money. Some of them are organized by the biggest exchanges, and basically this is like a very unofficial, a very friendly way of notifying each other about hacks. Right, so we don't rely on the police, we don't rely on the governments, we don't rely on anyone, right? This is just, someone with reputation says that this million is stolen money. And everyone, without any additional proofs, just blocks this money on their platforms. Right, I don't think if this level of trust exists anywhere on the market, right? But there are few of this, right? All the crypto analytic tools really have this sort of influence as well. So if there's someone from there who they trust, they also reach to others, right? So we managed over the years to recuperate millions, right, with this approach, right? Unfortunately, our biggest vulnerability, which was around 40 million, was done by the Lazarus. And there, unfortunately, you can do whatever you want, right? Even if you exploit your 15-minute opportunity in the best way, those people are professionals, right? Those are the same guys who are behind the biggest hack in the history of hacks, right? Which happens, unfortunately, with the Bybit. It's just this year, if I'm not mistaken. So these guys, they don't care really. What do you do, right? They have their flows and tools and instruments that are extremely hard, to recuperate in the end of the day. So the best way, recommendation for everyone, of course, to the listeners, I believe everyone on the panel already know these things, is you might be quiet in the media, right? Up to your decision if you want to disclose it immediately or you want to keep it relatively quiet if it is a smaller hack or whatever, or if it is a hack of your client. But it's extremely important to notify that system, right? Those chain analysis, those star compliances, those crystals, and whoever have you, and Crypto Defender Alliance organized by Coinbase and so on. So it's a must. And then
sorry, go ahead.
so basically, then they will be freezing those, right? And many of those might be highly regulated, and they are not allowed to give you that money back. But at least they will freeze it, like a friendly freeze, for some time before the police would be able to, send those freezing requests and so on and so on.
Well, that's a really interesting term, friendly freeze. And I'd like to actually pay a little bit more attention to what you said at the very beginning, right? You said there was a group of enthusiasts, friends, or, people close to you in terms of ethics. We're getting back to that question, I guess, again. So how safe is that? Because if it's the sense of community, that's what I'm hearing, right? So you have just a couple of groups, you call them. Is it just Telegram channel, Discord, or next somebody, right? And you can ask them for help. Is that the right way? Do you think that maybe we need a system if there's already a community of people willing to help? Because I know a couple of investigators who always announce the hacks or unusual activity that they're seeing on chain, right? There are a couple of people on X. So do you think that maybe a better working system needs to happen in order to protect that? Is that something that we need? And by the way, everybody, please feel free to chime in and share your experiences as well.
I would just quickly say it's already been built. Right, it's already in the process, right? I know I'm in the contact with people who are building those, right, and consulting with us what is the best way to do the monetization and so on. Right now, tools used are usually Chainalysis, Crystal, and similar ones, right? Who also in those groups and who mark those addresses as stolen money as soon as they can, so that everyone using them, all of their clients already get these alerts when they get those deposits and can react based on those alerts, which are already integrated. Yeah.
So, and I guess...
I just wanted to quickly add.
Of course.
So I agree with everything said above. I would be super interested in hearing more about this tool. And as a person who also has been hacked, it is quite a sensitive topic for me. But the other question, the other answer to the question, what should you do in the first 10 minutes, is shut down the whole system. Just shut it down. It would be traumatic for users, but the mistake we've made, we didn't immediately shut it down. So after the first hack, we've got another guy who understood how the first hack was made on chain, and he duplicated it. So as soon as you see it, just stop the whole process and then analyze and then turn it back on.
I mean, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, thank you so much. I was actually going to ask you as well, and I'm going to jump to the third question right away, because they're all kind of connected to the what happens next, and if there's better way to address that. And so, in 68% of hacks that we saw in the industry, the funds were moved from the hacker's wallet faster than the incident was publicly reported. And that's, as a journalist, I saw that a lot of time. We see the friendly groups and all of the accounts that we follow, as Max mentioned on X. There is like blockchain investigators and on-chain analytics too. They report an unusual activity. The company itself keeps silent. Do you think, and that's actually could be problematic because people can continue using the platform, they can continue transfer the money, and as Andriy said, it might be a better option to shut everything down completely. So do you think that earlier public disclosure increase the chances of recovery, or does it just give a heads up to the hacker that we're on to you, so you have to move faster? And why do you think some of the crypto companies still hesitate to announce that? I don't think this is a PR disaster. Everybody could get hacked. That's the reality that we're living in. So my question is, do you think that public disclosures could be more helpful or harmful? Georgie, would you like to chime in on this one?
One thing I would say on this is we should draw a line between the, not necessarily easy, but compared to the regulated financial world, this kind of either rosy place of DeFi or Wild West of DeFi, whichever comparison you prefer. Us, for example, being a regulated financial institution, even if we wanted to say, or if we wanted to say something about it publicly, we would have to think twice and three times and then rethink again, because, as they say, anything you say can be used against you. And being a regulated financial institution, even when we know something actually happened with a specific user, we can't even disclose it to the specific user, right? Because that could be considered as tipping off by the rules and regulations of the financial system. So making a public announcement, in a rush without considering all the not just consequences for the customers, but legal consequences for ourselves, for the for the licenses, in a regulated institution, CEO and chief compliance officer are personally responsible. They have, they may have, it may be a criminal offense saying
they're
something.
liable. Yeah, they're liable to do.
So yeah, that's a thing to definitely consider in our case.
Okay, I've never thought of that. I thought that the first thing you have to do is, address the problem and inform a user. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This might be potentially dangerous and liable in a court of law. So we actually have a question similar to that, but I think we're addressing this as is. I'm just going to read it from Sophia. Is there any safe way to publicly signal a hack in progress without tipping of the attackers to change tactics? This is pretty much the same that we're discussing. And I'd like Lex to maybe address that as well. Do you think there is a way? Because it's a confusing time if you shut down and freeze somebody's accounts without announcing that there's a hack in progress. People might get angry, criticize. There is definitely Reddit and X threads all over the place. You guys are such bad guys. I can't access my money, but you don't want to tip the hacker. So what's the silver lining in here? What's the best way to address that? Lex, what do you think? You're muted, by the way. Yeah.
Okay. So you not necessarily need to be explicitly public about that. The friendly groups that Max pointed out and blockchain analytics providers such as Global Ledger, we are all can be gateways. In a friendly group, you might be in some groups if you are on a larger side as an exchange. If you're on a smaller side, you're probably not invited, but you're still using a blockchain analytics provider, so you can always, because we are in all of these groups. That's our sort of job. We give in data, we take in data from there, and there are many sort of business groups that are just exchange of information between exchanges and financial institutions, but there are also public-private groups, and there are also only government-related groups. There might be some Europol initiative or a US initiative where a few of the law enforcement exchange information. So in order to get there, in order to say my wallet is tainted, my wallet was hacked and these money are stolen, please propagate this information, you can go to your closest blockchain analytics provider. So that's the easiest way not to be publicly not to get into the public problems and immediately have PR questions and things like that. You would have time for that. Definitely in some of these groups, there might be people that can leak it to the press if they are interested about that, or if they would do their own research and they understand, oh, it's that company or something. That sometimes happen, but you would still have more time and the money can be already blocked at this point. So this would be the easiest way to do that. In the sense of what Georgie said about a specific user, normally this is the initiative of the victim itself. So if you see that on your platform, the user got hacked and that's because he shared the password or something like that, normally companies do not report that. But if the company gets hacked and if there's a lot at stake, yeah, definitely there's a need to go. Sometimes even going to the police may do the trick. The problem is police is often pretty slow. So in one case in Switzerland, we waited a prosecutor to be assigned for the case for 2 months. And as report says, if you passed like 6-7 days, that's probably like zero probability of you getting money back. Very close to zero, yeah, on average.
Unspeakably long time in crypto terms. That's like impossible to get anything back. Max and Andrew, you want to add something? Please do.
Yeah, just quickly, like it depends, right? If you need to disclose it or not, depends on many things, right? So, I mean, we are a centralized platform, right? So when our clients are hacked, it's usually up to them, right, to disclose either whatever, if they leak API keys and they don't have limits, or even it is a hack within the limits. But here, I would like to use the metaphor, right? If the bank, the physical bank, right, which was happening before, is robbed, right, and the robbers are already on the run, what you do as the bank, right? You call the police probably immediately, but then do you announce that your store somewhere was hacked? Maybe not always, that was robbed. But basically, I want to say that it doesn't influence the behavior of the robbers. They were on the run immediately after the robbery. They don't care if you call the police or not. They don't care if you announce or not. They are already on the run. So I'm just challenging that it doesn't really influence the behavior of the hacker. It's not like they will be laundering money suddenly quicker if you announce it, right? They are already in the process. Some of them are not experienced, right? And they keep them on some wallets in USDT or USDC, right? So something inherently blockable, right? You don't even need the help of exchange to block some tokens, right? Majority of the tokens. So here, I think disclosure to the groups, it makes sense if you want to return the money, right? If the amount is small and you don't care if you return it or not, you can just forget about this and it will look like just a usual withdrawal, right? If you want to disclose it to the public, it depends how life-changing it is, right? Because, for example, if it is 1 million, you can just decide not to, right? Not to hurt your reputation, right? That there was a vulnerability and so on. But informing the closed group, yes. But then it means if you didn't disclose to the public, that means that no one will be losing money except of you, right? If it is a big hack that is already in the news everywhere and so on, that we didn't really had an option not to disclose it at all. I think we waited long enough, right, to write really detailed things, right? But we didn't have an option. It was already everywhere in the Twitter and so on. Although it didn't influence our clients in the long run, we went public about it. So I think it depends on many factors, and it's up to the business to decide if they want to go public or not.
I'd like to ask Andriy and Lex, because I see your hands, guys. Please chime in, but I do have follow-ups. I'll ask you a little bit later. Lex, you want to jump in?
Andrew, you are the first.
So sorry, I'm on the mute. So I'm looking at that from the perspective of decentralized platform. And usually where a decentralized platform gets hacked, people see strange activity on chain. So my assumption is that people would see that something is happening anyway. So I'm saying block everything, like I said, complete shutdown, and then do immediately a public announcement we've been hacked, more details later on. For what reason? So people know that you're not doing a rug pull. So at least people are aware that you are in a hard situation, you're working on it, you will provide details, and you're not hiding from anyone. So for me as a platform, it is the best approach. And my question is, I really liked the idea of contacting your provider for analytics. I'm just not sure how to properly do it when, let's say, my hack happened at 4 a.m. Whom specifically do I call at 4 a.m.?
This is actually a pretty cool question. So, in general, we do have a special like 24/7 support option in that sense. We can provide you with a phone number, and there will be maybe 2 or 3 phone numbers, one of which will pick up the phone. That'll be one of the cases. Another one is literally going through all the channels that we have with you, like Telegram, Slack, whatever. Many people, they might be working in different time zones, so they might pick it up. And as you saw in the chat, there are many people normally with us. I think we can formalize that. In the SLA support version, that's all like super formalized. But in the normal like chat situation, that might be formalized in a better service on our side. But it's definitely doable. Like it happens all the time. Like I get phone calls, even if it's not SLA. Like people just call me and say I get hacked. Just right now, help me please. And like the earlier, the better. Actually, like to be honest, I can pick up the phone. You have my phone. Like it's also the case.
Well, here's what I'm hearing, and I'd like to kind of conclude 2 very important thoughts already. So the first one is it's really nice to have not a centralized, I'm sorry for that, but it's a more appropriate way to, okay, so it's better to have a group of people who can help you in case of an attack and freeze some sort of activity, right? So this is the tool that I think Max mentioned somebody's working on. I think the industry will definitely benefit from that. And even if it's not available to the public, I think companies and executives having that access would be very helpful to everybody. And the second thing is that there definitely has to be support 24/7 in case of a hack or an unusual activity, which I'll get to in the next question. But I do have to chime in with my own opinion from media and probably from user. I don't think being hacked is something to be afraid of in terms of PR or brand. Unfortunately, this is a very new technology and this is a live organism. And I think I know you have compliance, you have lawyers, you have legal liability, but just in case, think about that. It doesn't damage your brand. The way you handle it is, and that's the thing. Sometimes being transparent in limited sense of legal way for you, the safe way, it might be better for your brand, and people will be, they might trust you a little bit more because you're being transparent, as I'm sure the case that you saw with the mantra, just recently, unfortunately, right, in this unusual activity. We're not going to dive into what happened, whether it is a market manipulation or from the company side. But the thing is that they were open 24/7 pretty much and commenting on what's going on, even though obviously they took a lot of heat. But I do have sources that are claiming that it was not the team's fault at all. I'm sure you guys probably know transparency when it happens might be even more beneficial than you think. And I'm going to jump to the next question that I think very important. As I've mentioned, the technology is really fresh, if you will, right? It's a live organism. Everything screams about crypto that is a live 24/7 organism. And there are definitely activities that we cannot understand at some point. Even blockchain developers, they're working on them, right? Or it's very hard for them to monitor. And the thing is that sometimes there's definitely something going on and it might look like a hack. Sometimes it's a technical issue, right? So how can teams differentiate between just legitimate user activity, very popular, very popular chain, people are, or an airdrop is happening for 300 million users at the same time, right? So it's something like that without triggering false alarms and friend freezing, or differentiate between, definite hack. So how can you, as executive of your companies, differentiate between unusual activity, probably nothing illegal, or something illegal is happening? Georgie, are you with us? Can you hear us? Can you see us? You're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't realize video was off for some reason. Yeah.
Oh, it's sorry. So did you hear the question? I thought you. How to differentiate between just unusual activity, popular chain at the moment, and something illegal, probably hack? How do you differentiate that?
In our case, first of all, we have to look not at just the crypto or on-chain part of it, but also at all the fiat transactions, because we process both. The platform is very complex, because think of us as a bank and an exchange at the same time, having to support both infrastructures. For that reason, for the crypto infrastructure, we rely on Fireblocks, who are the professionals in the space. So everyone should be doing what they're doing best. And of course, again, from a perspective of a regulated financial institution, even if we didn't want to have, or were too lazy to have any kind of procedures and monitoring, we would be forced to do that and to have those, right? In our history, we've always tried to anticipate regulatory requirements and rules, not wait to be told to do something, but rather implement various controls and checks before they became a rule of necessity. As one example, we've been a client of Elliptic, for example, since they were like a 3-man startup since 2016. Long before it became a requirement to monitor crypto transactions altogether. And of course, we have a very strict set of procedures and patterns that we treat as standard. Similarly to a bank, right? When a bank customer who at onboarding declared certain things, and then you make 50K a year, you will transact 55K a month, and then all these patterns are the same, and then all of a sudden like $500,000 hits your account, right? A bank would trigger questions in a similar way we would do as well. But to be 100% prepared against an army of people whose main job it is to find loopholes and holes, and I don't think it's realistically possible, even with all the tools that we have. And okay, even if you do notice that it's something out of ordinary, it doesn't necessarily mean you will react in the right way, right? Of course, freezing everything is an efficient tool, not always applicable probably, but definitely efficient. But also, other things to keep in mind, and you don't want to freeze it for all the ordinary unsuspecting users, especially since our users, they're not just like hardcore crypto traders that would by default understand, and in many cases it's not about your like day-to-day spending. And if we just decide to freeze everything and your card stops working, which may be completely unrelated to what's happening on the on-chain side, it's not a great thing to do for customers.
Max, it looks like you want to add something.
Yeah, just a quick note. I think what industries still have to learn is to spot the hack inside of their system, right? We saw this with MTGOX, which was being hacked for a long time, and it was unnoticed, right? Way back in 2013, right? We saw this with Ronin breach, right? Axie Infinity. If I'm not mistaken, they were being hacked for 6 days, and it was also unnoticed, right? So this is the challenge number one, right? To have systems in place which tell yourself that you are being hacked, right? To be able to react, to freeze the platform, as Andriy is saying, right? Or to inform everyone. So this is the number one, right? To see your own activities and distinguish between the hack and not hack, right? And the rest, right? There are a lot of flags, right? That we are getting from crystals and other analytics, right? Basically, we need to be training our systems, right? Of course, it means that we need to freeze some money for a short time because of the mistake, right? But this is the only way how we can sort of be making it happen. It's happening in the banks for already many years. I understand that with crypto, everything requirements to do it a bit quicker, right? But still, it's sometimes happening, right? When you send money from Binance, they're asking you some questions, or are you sure it's not a scam? Sometimes you deposit money somewhere on your crypto card, on the crypto exchange, and they ask you, okay, where you have this money from? Of course, we don't like all of those as customers, right? But I think some unnecessary evil should be present.
You're summing this up perfectly for my next question. But before I get into that, I always wanted to have an opportunity to ask just people, founders and CEOs, just maybe look at them like how difficult it is to try to keep up with all the regulations and compliance. Just your look, the way that you're saying that is just like it's such. I can imagine the from perspective of, being in charge of huge companies and trying to keep up. It feels like a nightmare. It's not necessarily a question. I'm just looking for confirmation. Is that true? This is too much? Is that what's happening? This is just pain that you have to wake up with? Is that it?
I had a meeting with my favorite regulator today. It's as I say, unnecessary evil, right? Most of the things make sense. Most of the things that are required, they make sense in the long run, because you have to understand that regulator need to protect a wider audience, right? It's like with the pedestrian crossing, right? I mean, if you are quick and young, you're probably able to cross the street without pedestrian crossing, but for the wider public, it makes sense. So sometimes regulation, they look like this, but in general, when you have a team who needs instructions, regulators make sure that you have those instructions, that you have those tools in place to protect your customers or customers of their customers and so on. So this is a pain, this is a nightmare, but this is a necessary evil.
So many questions, Andrew. I'll get back to you in a second. 2 follow-ups, Max. Your favorite regulator, is that the favorite person to work with, or was that sarcasm? That's just
No. I mean, and Georgy probably understands me completely, right? You never criticize openly your regulator, right? This is a very simple rule.
Sorry, I asked. Okay,
So it is my favorite regulator, literally.
Okay. So it's on the record. It's your favorite regulator. And the second question, and maybe Andrew will also help with that, but do those protections work? Are they actually efficient? The one that regulators and compliance team have in place? Is that your experience? That's what's happening? They're effective, or they're maybe slowing down the progress? And Andrew, please feel free to chime in and add whatever you wanted to say.
I just wanted to say that I hate regulations from the bottom of my heart. Like, I absolutely hate everything related to that. Absolutely. I think that crypto was not designed to be regulated, not in a way.
Fair, yes.
So my take here is that you should be fully decentralized. You should not be a custodial. You should not incorporate in Europe as the most stupid, place to be right now because of the MiCA. Incorporate somewhere at BVI and just forget about the regulations. Just ignore them. They will go away.
Andrew is hardcore crypto enthusiast till the very end. You know what I mean? So, Andrew, I think we'll have to have a separate conversation on how to protect users in that case. But yeah, I know the feeling. And actually, my next question is pretty close to what we're saying, right? So you're absolutely right. Crypto was not designed to be regulated, and some of the crypto maxis, if you will, and enthusiasts and top minds and top leaders have said that despite stablecoins now being in the Genius Act, being probably a good thing to build further, it goes against the very definition of the financial revolution that crypto was supposed to bring. So my next question that actually has to do with compliance and regulators and regulations, your favorite people probably in the world. So let's look at this from another perspective, right? And this is very personal for me as well. So some of the users, it comes from also the bottom of my heart, some of the users of centralized exchanges and centralized platforms specifically, they are reporting, again, have that experience as well. They're reporting much stricter, even stiff, like hardcore US corporate banking law attitude toward transactions. So I think Max mentioned, or maybe Lex mentioned that somebody asks you, is this a scam? Are you sure about this address? I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about more and more like stricter KYCs and more checks on the transactions that already happened, maybe a couple of years ago. So we're seeing a more strict approach. And even though I do understand why regulations, but the question is, first of all, is this the way it's supposed to be for everybody to be safe? Is it out of the line? And can we do anything about that? And Andriy, I think you're the first one to speak on that.
I will just give a very quick comment.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if everyone here has seen the latest email from Kraken, the exchange that I highly respect, that was saying that from now on, we should inform Kraken about the ownership of the sender or receiver on all amounts above 1,000. And I was like, are you kidding me? 1,000. So I do remember the time when I could do like 1 million in a single transaction. And now for 1,000, I need to explain because of the travel rule. It is just insane.
Fair. And I do agree with you, Anger. I'm not sure if this is even doable, but I think you guys can speak on that. Lex, of course. In regards to the Kraken rule, I'm not sure what kind of system you have to have in place to comply with that. But Lex, you wanted to say something even before the Kraken thing. Can you?
No, I mean, in terms of the regulations by themselves, when Mark says it's a necessary evil, I can agree to that because I knew people who, the team that was working on Mika, actually a lot of them are unhappy with the final result. That's what I could say. They think it's too strict, and some of them are now like working on in regulations in different countries. You might see that then in news, and you would see that what come out from these countries would be a little bit easier on the business. And what's interesting about that, why actually this team got sort of, funding, attention, and a mandate to do the Mika is because there was, Luna crash, FTX crash, and the multiple crashes at that time that actually caused sort of a public panic. And that was the response to sort of, okay, let's write a law to protect that public from, happening that again. Does it really protect from that? Maybe not for now. Maybe if there be more Mika compliance in general, maybe yes. This case with Kraken, I think it's related to travel rule. Some of these things related to travel rule, they will be very user averse. I can say, the users wouldn't like it. I don't think I would like it as a user as well. But yeah, I mean, this is the response. Sometimes, as we can see in the US, the regulations they back down. What is happening in the US in general with crypto is backing down. I mean, when the president launches a meme coin, that would be considered as a backing down. Maybe in Europe we would see something like this the same, even considering that the authors of Mika maybe thinking it's too strict. Yeah, so it is maybe an overreaction to some things, but it is a reactive thing in general.
Mhm.
That's how it works.
Georgy, please add.
Well, I would completely agree with Andrei here. And, being a company executive, we, of course, have to implement travel rule. And it's actually not Kraken's fault about 1,000. It's actually going to be €1 everywhere very soon. So life is not getting better from that perspective. And companies like Kraken, like ourselves, we just have to follow. There's no choice. If you're holding user funds, if you're a custodial service, then you have to be licensed or at least registered, and there's no way around it. Now, with all the respect for regulators, and a lot of it is important and needed, and that's why we kind of started on that path quite early on. And as much as I personally maybe disagree with the whole concept of regulating an industry that was supposed to lighten regulation to begin with, but that's rather philosophical. You can have a completely free decentralized industry, but it will forever become remain a niche. Like we can see that with Monero community, right? They were pretty much cut off all the centralized exchanges, services, on-ramps, off-ramps, etc. They still exist, but you would not imagine it becoming mainstream, right? With that amount of limitations. But on the travel rule, I actually do have a very strong opinion, personal one. I think it's one of the very vivid examples of where regulation actually fails, because it effectively, if you think, I mean, it didn't come as a result of Terra Luna. It came much earlier, right? The work, it was announced, and the work on it started much earlier than that. And it actually didn't come from Europe either. It came from US and FATFA. The problem I see with travel rule is that it's trying to apply, well, 20th century rules, if not earlier than that, to 21st century technology. Like initially, it was designed to make sure that bank transfers, which historically have been almost anonymous, right? You could send anything to anyone without, and yes, it's possible to somehow find out as a result of extremely complex investigation, but it would cost a lot of money, it would cost a lot of time, etc. So that's why the authorities implemented the travel rule, which would impose a requirement on all the banks or like money transfer institutions to provide certain information together with the transaction details, not just the amount, not just the date, but also like name of sender, who they are, what the purpose of it is, etc. Now, why do you need to apply this to a technology that's 100% transparent? Like with the existing tools, with the chainalysis, elliptics, and all the other services providing KYT tools, you can already trace any transaction. You can see where it's going. You can always trace it from. You don't necessarily have the name, but okay, if you have the name, what does it give you? If someone is trying to hack a centralized platform or abuse a centralized platform, they're most probably doing it under a fake KYC anyway, right? So travel rule just seems like a very outdated piece of rules that is being applied to new tech, and what we're seeing it's terrible. It's terrible for user experience. So I think the benefits of it for the industry for avoiding money laundering will be in order or more orders of magnitude less than the effect on deteriorating customer experience. Like when you have to confirm every single wallet, like it's ridiculous in my view, but we have to follow.
I actually have two follow-ups, two thoughts. Lex, I'm going to get to you. So the first one that you said, and the user experience is going to be much way worse. Do you think that rules like that will affect the number of users and users activity? Because like it does actually sound very, I don't know, very out of place for crypto, and a lot of people are coming from different territories where don't necessarily have access to other banking services, or they want to use finance in a little bit more free way. Do you think that rules like that and travel law will affect how users use crypto? Do you think that we'll see a lot less people?
We hope it's not going to have a massive effect, but we're already seeing that it is having effect. So, and the effect it's having is arguably, again, the opposite of what regulators were not expecting, not hoping, but like aspiring for, right? It will cause a lot of people to move to shadier platforms. So rather than use someone who is, fully transparent, compliant, regulated, etc., and applies all the new regulations, they will move to the offshore, the questionable exchanges of this world, to Terra Lunas and to Celsiuses, etc., to those platforms who still manage by using all kinds of regulatory arbitrage to avoid those rules and to just operate until they get a slap on the wrist, which is the negative side of it. The philosophically positive side of it is that probably more people will move into actual proper DeFi, where there's no custody involved, there's no monitoring requirements, and that could potentially, hopefully, bring us closer to that bright future that Andriy was mentioning, where crypto is a revolution rather than an evolution. And but again, but it's kind of trying to find the positive in a negative, right? But overall, I think the effect of travel rules specifically, I'm not talking about all regulation. A lot of it is very important, very needed, but travel rule, widely negative.
Yeah, so effectively, this kind of regulation restrictions bring more harm and more potential risks. That's insane. Not what it's supposed to do. And the second, just the thought, as you mentioned, the travel rule that is trying to regulate the new tech with a very old law. But we saw that actually, right? Especially the US has been trying to regulate before Trump, as this in his second term, we're trying to regulate crypto as security, and then as commodity, or maybe it's utility, and then using the Federal Reserve Act from 1913 back in 2017. So we saw that. And it's hopefully will change, but there for now, I guess what they're trying to do is trying to use what they have right now. But hopefully the regulation will also evolve with the tech. That's just my thought. Lex, I'm sorry to keep you waiting for so long. Please chime in.
Yeah, CoinsPaid. Just want to share what I know a little bit on the topic what Georgy was saying about the travel rule and what Andrew said about that in terms of the Kraken. So travel rule at the start was sort of harmful. It was just information exchange between exchanges, and that was sort of fine. But then it's really inapplicable because rarely people send from one exchange to another, mostly done by businesses and arbiters, but not done by users. And also hackers were understanding that they can bypass it. And then also one of the interesting things why regulate, and this is actually these obligations are reactions of regulators on that, is let's say a KYT tool like Global Ledger can trace back to a sanctioned entity, but then it would be like 5 steps back. And then the user would say, oh, this is a 5-step back. I'm on this first direct step. I'm not a sanctioned entity. So in order to verify, is this really sanctioned entity sending money to the user, or it's actually user, bought it with the cleanest and taxed money whatsoever and things like that in order to solve that problem. This is where this application is coming from. Whenever it's great, I think it's very big problem for the users and minor problem for the real hackers and professionals. For them, it's really a minor problem. I think this could be tackled with digital identity and many other technologies that are on the verge of starting, and maybe that's what change with these technologies emerging.
So here's the thing: we don't have a lot of time left, but I've listened to you guys talk about compliance and regulations, as I've imagined, with a great deal of pain. And I'm sorry, I am truly sorry. And I know that almost all of you mentioned that you experienced hacks as your company, not your, probably yourself as well. So I think this is a fair question to talk a little bit about trauma or PTSD, but I'm going to frame it a little bit differently. How did experience a hack as a company, as an executive of a company, change the way you see your role, first of all, and second of all, did it change anything company-wise? So being being involved in experiencing hack, or being involved in getting hacked or exploited or rug pulled, how does it change you as an executive? What kind of decisions are you making or not making anymore? And I'd like everybody of you to kind of add to that. Max, you've been silent for a little while there. Could you share your experience? Maybe are you more cautious?
Also probably I hold the record for biggest
I'm
amount
sorry.
lost.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry that it happened to you.
No, but this is fair. So I would say as the executive, as the company, of course, I can say from the personal experience, most of the problems in the company look smaller after that, right? So okay, but this is just a small thing that we need to solve. right? Compared to losing like really in the tens of millions. I would say as a company, we basically had stricter controls, right, on the security level and on the treasury level, right, which is a good thing to do anyways, right? Probably we just did it, overdid it. It's like in some places, which doesn't hurt that much, but happens. So yeah, in general, just to all the younger entrepreneurs and so on, to inform that there is life, right, after the big hack, right? This is in most of the cases recoverable and doable. Yeah, but it makes the company, stronger. It makes the executive stronger because, I mean, of course, the more challenges, the more problems you face, and the more you overcome, it's like it develops you as the professional, as the person, as the executive, and so on. Obvious things, right?
I'm so sorry, Georgie, you're holding your hand for so long. Oh, yeah, so it was a...
It was for the previous question.
Okay. Oh,
Laura.
whew, sorry.
worries.
Max, sorry then, Georgie. Max, thank you so much. And I'm sure you probably do have PTSD in some sort of case, but what executive does not have, right? It's a very stressful job, I assume. Andriy, I'd love for you to kind of share the experience. How does it change you as an executive of a company?
So I've changed a few things about how we work in my company. I made the deploys of the new specific tools way slower. So before we were trying to grab the new share or market or test the hypothesis as soon as we can. So like deploy. Let's see which works, which not. Kill this which is not working. Go with what is works. Now I became more careful. So before deploying something, I think 10 times. So the timeline is now postponed a lot. So some of the things that I wanted to implement, like auto compounding, they were supposed to go live 3 months ago. And we are still doing audits, additional audits, just because I'm trying to be careful after that story. Then another thing that we started doing a lot is to implement internal safeguards mechanism. So let's say, for example, if I see imbalance on liquidity pools that quickly grows to what is supposed to be one-to-one transfer becomes 1 to 80 cents transfer, then it just stops until we take a look at what happens automatically. And of course, now I sleep at night way less and worse.
I'm so sorry you feel that way. I think, actually, I do think, and I think I'm speaking from all of your users. You have to get better sleep in order to make better decisions. So let's just hope that Andriy will have better sleep from now on. So you'll have to have. I know that responsibility is probably taking a toll on you, but oof, that's tough. But I asked it myself. Lex, would you like to add something? To share your experience.
Yeah, I mean, we never got hacked ourselves. Fortunately, we have no stash, in that sense. We only help people when they get hacked. And what I realized over the time is, when you learn to fly an airplane, what people make you learn is what to do when the engine goes out. So when there is engine failure, the instructor wants you to have a reflex, like really do things in a shock. And what they want you to do is, like, if your engine is out, they would want you to like hold your airplane in the air, keep the speed, turn to the closest airport, and communicate that you have an emergency. So all the other planes and the airports, they would listen to that. Maybe someone would see you, they would send you the like fireman or police or whatever service available. And this is what you don't learn in any business school. This is what you don't know when you learn to do business, and especially in crypto, especially if you like self-taught and things like this is what you skip. There is no engine failure training. There's no engine failure procedure in a company normally before it really happens. So with this report that we did on the speed of money laundering, we just emphasized that importance of communication really fast. So you know how hackers normally behave, right? And that there are other planes which has other exchanges and other companies out there that could listen to your signal and block the funds if they receive some. Yeah, so that's the sort of mission we had with the sort of statistics that we provided.
And thank you so much for that. Please keep doing what you're doing, and probably more phones for people to be able to call and talk to you at night or just report a potential hack. Georgy, I don't think, I hope that your company wasn't experiencing hacks or exploit or something like that, right? Am I correct? You didn't have experience.
Yeah,
like that.
definitely nothing major. Like there are occasional, I wouldn't call them hacks, rather like when just minor things when a client finds an interesting way to use some product to their benefit, which couldn't
An
even be called
interesting
an
way to-
exploit. It could be, technically it's nothing illegal, right? Those small things sometimes happen, and yeah, you just learn from them. If you're ideally, you always want to learn on other people's mistakes, but at least on your own. If you don't learn on your own, then yeah, you probably shouldn't be in this business. But yeah, generally, it's all ups and downs in life, and yeah, just what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, that's a very nice way to put it. So, first of all, thank you so much. I'd like to sum up a little bit, and if you have any other thoughts, further thoughts. So, first of all, amazing conversation. It was very insightful. It truly was. And from what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, what we need is obviously, we need a lot. We need less regulation, probably, or less stiffer regulation to understand the nature and climate of a crypto asset, that it's supposed to be a little bit more free. It's not just another banking product. It was originally created to provide more financial freedom to people. The second thing is there's probably a need of more cooperation on helpful groups and helpful accounts and contacts in case of a potential exploit or hack. And I do hope that every responsible executive will take time to learn the groups that Max and Lex and everybody else on the panel mentioned, that there is some sort of support community that can help you freeze your asset. Again, friendly freeze is just a term that I'm taking away from this panel. The third thing is that we need a better system to work with hacks, but there's always a possibility to shut everything down if it's a major attack or a major hack, but also be very careful with that because, it might be just an unusual activity, but you have to be able to act. The remaining points that I have is that maybe, guys, you have final thoughts on compliance and regulations. And I'm sorry, I know this is hurtful and painful, but do we need to involve AI into systems of defining potential major attack? Do you guys want to switch to more proactive compliance rather than retroactive? Is there anything else? Or maybe more stiff punishment for hackers at all? Because, it would be best if we didn't have them, but the game is the game, and we do have hackers and we'll probably always have them. It's just human nature. So what would you like to add to the listeners and just colleagues from other companies that are hopefully listening? So anything else that you'd like to add as a final thought? Max, let's start with you.
Yeah, I would say like on the topic. So using AI, I think it's more not on the hack prevention, but you can use it there as well. So for us, AI is mostly to monitor the transactions, right? To monitor what is really bad transaction and what is just weird transaction, right? Because with operating with millions of addresses a month, you cannot really do anything manually, anything. Right? So of course, and hiring 1,000 people who will be checking those manually also doesn't make any sense. So AI definitely there, yes. Right? On the withdrawals, we use it slightly different, but I think AI can be used, right? If I know that my client is withdrawing up to 100K a day, then AI would spot if the client suddenly withdraws 250,000, right? So some freezes on the unusual behavior on the client side is also something that we are thinking about, but not really close to implementing. So AI definitely helps to work with the patterns, right? And with repetitive things and figure out what's wrong, what's not.
it's also like a very healthy approach. I know AI is a new fancy thing. Crypto is a little bit less flashy these days, but because AI and potential unicorns and stuff like that. But still, like you have to be careful into implementing it because it's still again a very live organism. Lex, would you like to add a final thought?
I think on the AI side and just generally like these new technologies and new regulations side, my philosophy is that it should be invisible and not adding any obstructions or barriers for the users, and not adding, maybe even reducing the costs for the business. That's how we added AI, for example, to our tool. Is it does the pre-investigations and it reduces the time you spend per alert, for example, or it sorts them out and creates Jira tickets and things like that. So in that sense, cost reduction, not like, for example, I think AI that would be like ChatGPT style, printing you some text over every wallet or alert will increase the time that you spend per each alert because you would need to wait until it will sort of explain you there something and things like that. But something that reduces the costs, improves the speed. This is the technology that should be there, and this is where AI can be definitely used.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like everybody who's listening to kind of think in that direction. I think this is a very helpful tip. Georgy, would you like to add a final thought?
Well, if we're talking AI, then yeah, hopefully
Or compliance, other proactive, not very active, anything. Yeah.
it offers us will allow to, I mean, you can either have 5 million analysts looking at every transaction, which is very unpractical, and you can't run a business like this, or you will end up having a strict of rigid rules, which most banks and fintechs and crypto companies end up having quite often. And but when it's all strict, very prescribed rules, then and your card stops working when you move to a different country, that's kind of outdated, right? Because these days people move around a lot, and just the fact of allegedly not you using your card in a different country, well, maybe it's you traveling to a different country, right? So hopefully with tools and deeper analytics enabled by AI, we should be able to improve user experience on from that perspective, and also reduce the business's cost, like the need for manual reviews of all those tickets. And in general, to like the question of final thoughts and where this whole thing is heading, and should we be really worried? I can't remember who made the bank robber analogy, but I think it's a very good analogy. In the times of Wild West, how many bank robberies were happening, right? Every day someone would rob a bank. And crypto right now is pretty much in that, well, not exactly in that stage, but similar to that stage. So of course there will be a lot of bank robberies just by other means, by hacking someone's smart contract rather than physically robbing a bank. How many bank robberies do we have these days? So we kind of solved the problem, right? With various tools, technologies, working together of bank security experts with police, with regulators and law enforcement and all that. So bank robbery is almost a thing in the past these days, at least the physical bank robbery. So hopefully with all the tools provided to us, we will end up evolving to the same stage where no bank robberies are happening or hacks are happening again. But that's something that the whole industry has to mature through, and we're working hard in that direction. And again, being a financial institution, we can only do as much on that front as is provided by the tools we're using. From our end, we're using the best, and we try, of course, to save money, but that's the area where we invest very heavily. So if the likes of Global Ledger and Chainalysis and SumSub and all these guys provide us with strong, effective tools, then it will be for everyone's benefit.
Thank you. A very nice thought about, no more hacking in the future. Hopefully it will happen. And Andriy, I'm expecting something hardcore rebel stuff. Please just tell us what you think.
I mean, I already expressed my thoughts about regulations and compliance, and they can go all and do what people recommend, in an informal conversation due to themselves. But I wouldn't say that publicly, of course, on a webinar. But I think whoever is listening to us, they probably guessed what I mean. As for the AI, I fully agree with Max and Lex that AI is useful on the analytics side. So searching for abnormalities, looking for different patterns, and it could not only prevent the hacks or highlight the hack so that then the technical team can go and investigate. It can also work the other way. It can show what chains are most popular, where we have more transactions, because there is a lot of analytics that we are gathering. And by the way, speaking of compliance, even though I absolutely hate them, and as I said, again, don't be custodial, be fully decentralized, don't incorporate in Europe. I don't want to go to jail. So just in case I've got a request, I always provide the info. And I've been investing a lot into infrastructure of the cross-chain block explorer. So usually, if you transfer from, funds from Ethereum to Binance Chain, it is gonna be the same address. So if the money is being stolen here, you can clearly see them there. What happens if you breach from Ethereum to Solana? So the nature of the addresses are different. So it is much harder to see what is happening to the transaction. Because of that, we specifically invested into the tool that records all the transactions real time, sender, receiver, chain amount. And we feed this information to whoever needs it. So basically we say, here is an open API. You want to highlight the hack, you want to know what is happening. We are here, we're transparent. I think that our best defense strategy is transparency.
A very, very nice way to put it. And I agree. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, and thank you for all your attendance, we do have a question from an audience. And if I put it, yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys see this in the Q&A section. I think maybe Lex will be willing to answer that one. No, you don't see it? Okay, I'm going to read this to you. So Chainalysis Hexagate claims to prevent hacks before they happen, but proactive blockchain protection is still rare. What's the best way to overcome adoption hurdles? And is investing in this visionary capability worthwhile even before widespread usage proves its value? Have you guys used that tool?
No, I mean, like, I would not definitely promote any Chainalysis product here. I would rather promote our partner, which I think is a leader in the sphere, is a company named Hypernative. I think it's by far exceeding all of the other products out there in terms of preventing hacks, and especially for the decentralized companies that are running on smart contracts. The way it works technically, it works like an antivirus. So if there is, so normally when people want to hack you, they deploy a smart contract with certain malicious code in it, especially that, if you think about DeFi hacks. And Hypernative just detects that. So they detect signatures of these malicious smart contracts or malicious transactions that are sent to your smart contract, and they notify you so you can turn everything off before that happened. I think it's a pretty good product. We definitely partnered with them. There is a connection that we're building that after the incident is happening, we have an auto tracing tool that just starts investigation right away, even if you're not noticing anyone or something. It traces money and notifies you if someone sent money to an exchange or something like that. I think this one is pretty good connection, pretty cool tools, and this one really works as a detecting hack before it happened.
Great, thank you. Again, as you mentioned, not an ad, not investment advice, just a thought, personal opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So guys, thank you so much for your time. And I think I've never had such an insightful conversation before of over 8 years in the industry, but thank you so much for your time. And to everyone who listened, thank you so much for joining. So hopefully that was a very interesting and useful conversation for you. And to you, our guests, please keep building. And thank you so much.